All right, today's the day. We get to put the lift on the Colorado. And these are the parts that we have. So first off, we have Freedom Off-Road upper control arms. The reason I went with these is, it still has to be a commuter. Still has to be a commuter, so I wanted something that was affordable, budget friendly, and these ones actually have serviceable upper ball joints. There's a grease zerk under there, but they have the standard rubber style instead of the poly bushings like you'd see in a lot of the higher priced upper control arms. But yeah, I mean, I've heard great things about this company, and I have high hopes for that. What else we have is also these Eibach coilovers. So these are a ride height adjustable coilover. These will go in and replace the stock ones. Here's the Eibach rear springs. It's that 0 to 1 lift, and then in the back, instead of doing a lift block, I elected to go with an add-a-leaf. So the hardware for that. This right here is a sway bar drop bracket. So everything that I ordered was from Peak Suspension. One-stop shop. I'm not affiliated with these guys. I'd love to be affiliated with them, but all in good time. Their parts I have, diff drop bracket, and then also the tie rod ends. So we'll get all that installed today on that truck. But I had to come down and get a fire started first, let it sit for a little while. So I'm gonna set that at 3 inches so that I can clear these tires. The Method MR309s wrapped in BFG KO2s, 275, 75 17s. Works out roughly to be a 32.2 inch tire. Set those ride height adjustment coils at 3 inches and measure what the CV axle angle is before and after, and then see how much it improves the angle when I put that diff drop bracket in there. So what I'm going to do now is work on getting this truck up on the lift, and yeah, we'll go from there. Follow along. All right, first off, we got to take out all of these torque heads to get this fender liner out, because we're going to have to cut a little bit out of there of the support on the backside. Now with all those out, we got to pop the fender liner out. Before we start pulling suspension components, we got 2 parts to pull off, or right here, you can't really see it, right by my finger. It's a T25 Torx, as well as a 10mm bolt right here on the back side of the spindle. Those need to come off so that they can be pulled out of the way. We don't have to worry about breaking them. All right, next piece we got to get out is the sway bar end link right here. 13 millimeter top and bottom. Or not. Let me check the bottom and see if this works. Bottom works. Alright, next we gotta get this sway bar out of there. 10 millimeter bolts. Alright, with the sway bar out, note that there's a long bolt and a short bolt. Long bolt goes in the back, short bolt goes in the front. Next up, we're gonna start splitting the suspension apart. We got our upper ball joint, and we have our tie rod to take off as well. And then the suspension itself off. Tie rod's a 21 millimeter, upper ball joint is an 18. Oh! Well, it didn't need to be shocked. Popped out all on its own. Alright, what you saw us do right there. So we had an issue getting the tie rod end out of here. So all we did, screwed this down there a little bit, used the socket, impacted down until it popped out. The upper ball joint, and that thing it slid right out of there before we even put any pressure on it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take these top bolts out and we'll go from there. Top bolts right here, 18 millimeter. Now that we got that out, now this whole coil over comes up just like that. Next we gotta get upper control arm out. Might need a breaker bar or something. Other side. All right, out with the old and with the new. All right, I wanted to do a quick comparison between the two of these. Here's your stock upper control arm, and here's the Freedom off-road upper control arm. You can see that there's a major difference between the outside diameter of these. This one's going to be way stronger. Freedom off-road, they give you a good product, they ship out really quick, and they're affordable, unlike some of the higher end ones, which nothing wrong with those, but what I do like about these is that it's serviceable. Most of those uniball setups that you get are not serviceable. It's just a bearing race, and then you have to replace them and press them in and out from time to time. So let's get this one installed. All right, got the upper control arm snug in. Now let's take a look at these coil. All right, let's take a look at the differentiation between these two coilovers. This one's obviously threaded, an adjustment. You're looking at roughly, I don't know, maybe a ½ inch to an inch worth of difference right there. But we got some adjustment in the coil. I don't know if I'll be able to see that. All right, there you go. You can see right in here, there's still some thread left. So what I'm gonna do is when I get this installed, you can adjust these, and so I'll adjust that all the way up to get maximum amount of lift, because we wanna do the full 3 inches with this setup. So let's go throw this into the truck. Alright, so the big dilemma that we run into here is that per manufacturer specifications, they want these bolts for the upper control arms, these ones, they want them torqued down when it's under load. So I gotta see if that's capable with the tools that we have. If not, we'll get it close to a ride height and then torque it down. Because the big thing that they don't want to happen is these rubber bushings that are in here, they don't want them to tear. So we'll see what we can do. What we need to do, and that larger spring in there, I just don't think that's gonna happen. Okay, so the story this far is, well, we got most of it back together. The reassemble process is obviously just backwards of everything that we took apart. The last thing that you saw was me putting the upper control arm in, and we were trying to figure out whether or not we could torque it with the coilover in place. Well, we couldn't. We didn't have the right tools, so we set it to what we thought to be an appropriate ride height, and then torqued it to the, I believe it was 118 foot-pounds that we needed. So right now we're going through, we're trying to get the air dam off. We got everything torqued in. We got the speed sensors, wheel speed sensor back in. Cut out the limiter strap, which was right there. Painted over it to avoid rust. Yeah, so everything's pretty much close to being back in. And now we just got to get this air dam off, set the ride height to where I want it, and then we can move on to the backside. We also put the peak suspension tie rod sleeves on there, really easy to do. All we did anyways, we backed that jam nut off of there, and then we rolled this out and just counted how many turns it took. This came out roughly 16 and a half turns. We threaded it back on there, and this acts as your jam nut now, so when you're running bigger tires, you don't have to worry about it breaking right there. So other than that, pretty self-explanatory. Where's it at? This right here is the tool that came with the Eibach kit. And I want to also state that these are not the Pro Truck kit. These are the Eibach 2.0s. So it's ride height adjustment, and it's threaded right there. So when you're doing your threading, this doesn't do well. So I ended up using a 1/4 inch punch. Worked much better, didn't bend. This one just bent. I have these back in. I'm not gonna put the fender liner in back quite yet. I wanna see if the tires are actually gonna rub on this with where it's set at before I go cutting it up. Yeah, we took the air dam off, it's right here. Yeah, see, peak suspension. I also have the diff drop brackets. We'll see what the angle is of the CVs, but yeah, again, over here, it's all torqued in, it's all set. You can see right here that this kind of, when I was adjusting it, it kind of, I don't know, popped out on me a little bit. There's still gasket under there, or there's still rubber under there, but kind of is what it is for right now. I need to get the truck back together. And then to the back side. So I didn't really film any of this because I was on a time crunch. The help that I had needed to get going, so we needed to do this relatively quick. So this right here, this one that my hand's on, is the add-a-leaf. I chose to do the add-a-leaf. Gives you about 1.25 inches. It's gonna settle out to roughly 1 inch. Yeah, real easy to do. You take the U-bolts off, get something under the axle so you can support it, lower it down. The center bolt, which is under this, comes out. And then there's a kind of a rotation pin or something like that in there that you have to drive out. Not a big deal. Yeah, so this also right here, I don't know if you can see that. Let me grab a light. Steal this one right here. So yeah, right up in there. I don't know if you can see that, the top of that shock, but that is a pain in the butt because it hits the def tank. If you have a diesel, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. If you have a gas, it'll come out really easy, no problem. What we had to do is we had to loosen the front straps, pull it down, so then we could get it into that bolt, into that dimple of the tank. Man, let me tell you, that was a pain in the butt. So know that going forward, if you have a diesel and you're installing new rear shocks, you're gonna have to drop that down. It's just the way it is. It's a big pain in the butt, but whatever, it's done now. So yeah, again, so it'll look like, if you have a gas, it'll look like this. You'll just be able to pull it right out, no big deal. But again, add a leaf on this side, everything's torqued down, good to go. So now what I have to do is I have to slap the tires on there. Then I'm gonna drop it down, see what the ride height is. I'm probably just gonna leave it at that for today. And I'll come back tomorrow and finish it out. See if I need to cut that, and then see if I need to, and then obviously put the wheel or the fender liners back in there. They're not in there for now. So yeah, let's get the tires on there. All right, there we have it. There's the first look at the stance after we did 3 inches in the front and 1.5 inches in the back with the add-a-leaf. Can already tell, looking in there, probably gonna have to cut that just from how it sits. The suspension will probably settle out just a little bit once I drive it around. Yeah, other than that, I'm pretty happy, super happy with the way it turned out. Looks like it might just have, I don't know, just me, might have a little bit of a rake leaning forward or nose forward. This is what it looks like so far. I'm gonna call it a night for right now. I'm gonna come back out here tomorrow and yeah, we'll get those trimmed up and go from there. All right, see you in the morning. It's the next day. We're back out in the shop and we're gonna finish up the Colorado. So we'll get a little bit of the front fenders or the front fender supports cut out. And yeah, get the fender liners back in and go drive it and settle the suspension, and then it goes in for an alignment tomorrow. So let's get after it. All right, you can see here, this is where I'm gonna make my cut line. So it's gonna follow this kind of waffle pattern here, because then I can take these and hopefully reuse them here. It's the plan anyways. So yeah, we'll take and cut it back following that line. There you have it. Number 1 done. There you go. Number 2 done. So we can see kind of where it lines up. Yeah. All right, that should do it. Let's go install these back in the truck. There we have it. First drive, backed it up. Looks pretty good. I'm excited with how it turned out. So now I'm just gonna drive it around here a little bit, see if I can get the suspension to settle. Get it fired back up, turn it, go full lock and see if it's really gonna rub on anything. I mean, man, that turned out really good. Super happy with how that all turned out. Wheels and tires look good, all black on black. Hopefully the suspension settles out just a little bit. Well, let's fire it up and see what it looks like full lock. Doesn't look like it's gonna rub on anything. That might rub a little bit. It's close. It looks mighty close. And a little bit more. See what that looks like. Not too bad. Yeah, it looks real close. Alright, I'm gonna go a couple of angles over here that I'm gonna go drive up on. Kind of flex the suspension out. See what it does. All right, moved it up just a little bit more. I'll go ahead and crank the tires, see if they actually hit like that. But I mean, we're just about off the ground with that one. And it's tucked pretty good on that side. Let's see what happens when we crank the wheel. It's fine there. Looks close. Turned a little bit. It looks like it might hit right there on the outside. We shall see. Nah, I think we're still gonna clear. I think we'll be all right. That might be close. Crank it back out slowly. Oh, ooh, might hit. Unless I'm really hitting it hard, turning, well, and flexing out the suspension like that, I think might be the only time that I would run into an issue. So, that being said, I'm gonna end the video here. I'm not done with this truck. It looks pretty good the way it sits, not gonna lie. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Just a little bit of cutting and the lift was pretty easy. I have a few complaints with it, but that's just me. A little more detailed directions would have been better. That would have been great, but it is what it is. Figured it out. If you watch any of the other videos, you can compile from all the other lift kits and whatnot that are out there that people have installed on these and pretty much figure it out. But that's where I'm going to end it. So if you want to see more, I'm not done with this truck by far. If you want to see more, if you want to see what happens with this truck, see what I'm going to do with it, subscribe, follow along, and you'll see more of this truck. Yeah, that's it. Have a good one. I'll see you on the next one.